This is John Martinka, and welcome again to the Getting the Deal Done podcast. I am here today with my very special guest, Ken Rusk. Ken is the founder and president of Rusk Industries, that owns several construction companies. He is also the author of Blue Collar Cash and the related practical course, The Path to a Successful Life. Welcome, Ken.
Well, okay. Hey, thanks for having me, John. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got to, you know, s- start Rusk Industries and all of that.
Well, real simple. When I was in high school, my high school shared a fence with an industrial park, and I remember when I was 15, I wanted my first real job. We all wanted to buy our first new used car, take our girlfriend out for pizza, or go bowling with my buddies, whatever. So I just remember we used to cut through a hole in this fence on our way to the carryout where we used to hang out after school. And this one particular area had a bunch of hustling and bustling businesses in it. And so I remember walking by one of these businesses, and it was a lot of big boy, Tonka toy things like, backhoes and dump trucks and all that kind of stuff. And I loved being outside working with my hands. So I just asked them what they did for a living, and they said we dig ditches. And I said, well, I'm wholly qualified to do that. So I literally signed on, dug ditches in the summertime when I wasn't in school, and then I worked in the front office when I was in high school after school. So what happened was I got kind of a combination of the front and the back office experience. So when it came time for, being 18 years old, deciding what you're going to do next, I literally um, they came to me and they said, "Look, we want to open franchises of this company around the Midwest, and we think you're a good person to help us do that." So
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, let's do that. I get to learn how to open a business with somebody else's money and and make the hopefully learn from all the mistakes and do it right." So I spent time in Columbus and then in Cincinnati and in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Chicago. And after doing that for 4 or 5 years, I got tired of living out of a suitcase, which many people do. And I, I moved to Northwest Ohio, started my own company. We started with 6 people, and I think we have nearly 200 today. So that was 29 years ago today. Um, and it's been a heck of a ride.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about what Rusk Industries does.
So we are primarily that's kind of a construction concern. It has several construction companies in it. We build houses in Missouri. We build office buildings here in Ohio. We do a lot of foundation work on old buildings. We're into construction chemicals and that kind of thing.
Okay. So as you've built this company from six to over 200 people, what are some of the lessons that you learned that others could benefit from knowing about or avoiding some things?
Well, I certainly think this. I certainly think that if I when I look back on trying to be a visionary for the company, when you're a visionary, you have to be up in the clouds, way up in the air, looking 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 miles into the distance to see what's coming your way, so you can properly drive the growth of a company. And sometimes we get too stuck in the mechanical parts of it. We're down in the trenches, if you will, and we can't see that. So for me, the lesson I learned is if you truly want to be successful in your company, and this is the controversial thing but for me it works. You have to become as irrelevant to your company as possible, and for a lot of people that's a tough pill to swallow. So I think if you're too closely involved in it, you can't really see where the whole thing is going. You can't be stuck in the engine room of a ship if you're really trying to drive this ocean liner across the ocean. You really got to look out with your radars and your sonars and your scanners and see what's out there. And I think too many owners, and I don't know if it's because they're connected to the ego of being the decision maker for everything, or they just identify as this person and they can't divorce themselves from it. but you really have to separate yourself from the organization in order to do what's right for that same very organization.
You when you talked about that at first, it was a little bit about irrelevancy in that. But if you notice my screen background on my book about exiting, it is one of the seven value drivers that I emphasize, and that is get rid of any owner dependency. And it could go to the extreme of what you're talking about. It could be rid of any owner involvement because the less the owner does, the more value there is to the company. And you're right about ego. Uh, it's also a thing about people have a problem with delegating because I can always do it better. So how did that is a tough one. So any thoughts on how you overcame that? That you accepted I have to delegate.
Well, I have to tell you, it started very early for me. I actually got lucky with that because I had a landscape business out of my Monte Carlo, my 76 Monte Carlo. And I will never forget this moment. So I had me and two other guys. I think I was charging the customer $12 an hour. I was making $8 an hour and I was paying my guys five. Okay. So it was funny because I remember leaving that job so I could go quote another job. And then I started working on that other job because they wanted me to do something right away. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. I've got people over there that are working and I'm over here working, and we were all creating this company. They're doing things I asked them to do, and they're creating value. I'm creating value over here, and together we're going to create job security and growth for all of us. So it was a pretty cool thing early on for me to delegate because it was just born of necessity. And so, bigger company, more delegation, more people, more delegation. But I have to tell you, there is something inherently sweet about seeing somebody do something as good or better than you would have done it yourself. And that's what I always strived for. I never really wanted to accept someone, to your point of saying, well, I do this, me myself, I do this 100% every time. That person's only doing it 80. I really wanted to kind of implore people or motivate people to do it at 110. And what's funny is the more you do that, the more you'll find people will do something as good or better than you would have done it. And that's where the real um, that's where the real wonderment comes from running a company, because now you look to yourself to surround yourself with more people like that. And I use the word intrapreneur. Sometimes I think I invented that word, although I know I didn't. But to get people to work within your organization as if they owned their own piece of it is a real huge benefit, because now you've got people that are kind of saying, okay, so I can be autonomous. I have control of this. I have control of my input, my output, my day, my time, my schedule, my financial gain. I have control of the result. I actually feel like a mini owner within this organization, and I'm compensated like that too. So why would I want to go anywhere? Why would I want to take the risk that Ken takes of having to buy 42 dump trucks when I can act like and be like an owner within his organization and even get paid like one? So I think there's power in the theory behind entrepreneurship, and I exercise that a lot here. I think it works great for us.
Yeah, that's a great example and great word because it does hold a lot of businesses back. In fact, we had a deal earlier this year. We helped our client sell his business, and when we first met him, if, you know, initial conversation. This is how many employees I have. I don't like managing this many employees. I don't want any more, but the business has so much potential to grow. And sold the companies doing what he wants to do within the company, entrepreneur for someone else, and told us last month he he hasn't had this much fun in his business, in the business, in years and years.
Well, yeah, I could see that being an amazing result because, again, you're either working on your business or working in it. And he made a conscious decision of doing which one he wanted to do. So if he found his happy place there, I am all for it. I mean, he kind of got the best of both worlds, selling it and remaining within it. I think that's a pretty cool place to be.
Yeah. So let's talk about your book. Blue collar cash.
So blue collar cash came again kind of out of necessity. My daughter, when she was 12, she suffered, she got cancer actually. And it was a pretty scary 5 years for her mother and I, and it never goes away for anyone who
Yeah.
has to deal with has dealt with that. But when you're in oncology rooms and you're in ultrasound rooms and doctors' offices and all that, you have a lot of time to sit around and think. So I kept thinking, what would be my motivation or my letter to her if I could write something to her? What would I tell her? And the words comfort, peace, and freedom I just kept seeing them everywhere, like yellow Volkswagens. You see one, you see them everywhere. And so I couldn't get rid of these words. And I just thought, well, maybe there's something to this. So I started writing her a very long letter, and pretty soon it turned into 80,000 words. And then I didn't know it, but I wrote a book. And even my wife said, I think you've got a book going here. And the interesting thing was, I kept referring back to my business in what do you want your life to look like? That's really what comfort, peace, and freedom is all about. Because we all have a different vision or version of what that might be. We all have our own nirvana that we would chase if we could design our life the way we wanted to, John. What would it look like? And so it has a heavy focus on, I don't care if you're doing blue collar, white collar, pink collar, whatever collar, you have to know why you're doing this to begin with. And I think if you can build a company where you have everybody within it chasing at least a short, middle, and long-term why or goal or timed pathway, as I like to call them, you create amazing momentum. So the book for me was kind of a give back to my company, give back to the people that have been with me for all these years, and also to kind of shorten the learning curve for that entrepreneur that's following behind us. Because, if I can make their life a little bit easier, a little bit better along the way, then I think it's incumbent upon all of us to do that.
Yeah, you're right. Um, and you've done it through the construction industry, uh, which is very admirable. That can be a tough industry for a lot of people. In fact, I've worked with construction companies that weren't doing well. So you've done well. Now you've got a course that goes along with it, the path to a successful life. What's
Yes.
involved in that?
Well, so many times, I've been on probably, I don't know, 300 podcasts in the past year and a half. And I'm always interested in people that have read a lot of books, like what they get out of them. And sometimes you get good answers, and sometimes you get, well, I read that book, it was really good. Well, how did it change your life? I don't know, but I read it and it was a good book. So I was really concerned that my book would be read and then just shelved, okay, to collect dust. And I didn't want that to happen. I really wanted people to say, well, if I'm going to take the time to read Ken's words, okay, and by the way, he has no qualifications whatsoever to tell me this stuff, but I'm going to read it anyway. I wanted to change my life. I wanted to make some impact on what I'm doing. So I built this course. It's literally 8 sessions long. They're about 40 minutes a session. It's all online and you can guide yourself through it. It's like a self-taught thing. And there's courses out there, John. I see these all the time. 2,000, 4,000, 6,000. No, this is $179 and you get a free book with it. So for a dinner and a movie, you can change your life. And that's the thing I like about it is because I take most of the money and I donate it anyway. So I wanted someone to read the book or take the course and reference the book because that's how it works. And then say, wow, there's something that I can use this afternoon to change my life. Not tomorrow, not next month, not next quarter, but now. I have plug and play things that Ken's given me that I can use to change my life and make it better. That's how it's been received. And yeah, it's been doing good so far.
Good. So tell the audience where they can get your book, first of all.
Well, you can go to any of the buy buttons that you have, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, any of those places you can buy, local bookstores for sure.
Okay.
And then you can also go to kenrusk.com and get it there.
Okay. What about your course?
Yeah, that's all housed on kenrusk.com. You'll see the book button and then you'll see the course
Yep.
button. And I encourage people to go do that because not only do I guarantee it'll change your life for sure, it'll fix something that's broken, but just know that if you buy the course, you're helping someone else at the same time because I donate one for every one that's sold to somebody who needs it.
Okay. You talk about donations a couple times there, and you also have a foundation that you recently started.
Yeah, I started something called the Comfort, Peace, and Freedom Foundation. And the reason I did is because I have this. My father was a Marine, and I never got to serve, but I always felt like I wanted to give back to my country in some way, shape, or form. So I started the Comfort, Peace, and Freedom Foundation so that people could, when were transitioning out of the military. So many times people come out of the military and they're like, wow, I was driving tanks and launching rockets yesterday, and today I'm at the grocery store and I don't know what I'm doing. And so I never wanted that to happen. I wanted the transition to be already known. They went into the military knowing they were coming out and they were going to start their own electrician business. So while they were doing their thing, that electrician business was in the back of their mind. And then when they came out, they started their electrician business and they just had continuity. So for me, I always wanted to help to try to provide that continuity because there seemed to be such a disconnect. I've talked to so many veterans who have said, yeah, my whole transition was you can be a cop or a truck driver. What do you want to be? And that was it. And I thought there's got to be more than that. So I wanted people to know what they were going to do, when they got out before they even got in. And for me to help them transition to a stable life is something that I'm kind of after.
Okay. Now, you also focus on first responders and their families?
Yes, I mean, as we talked, anyone that's ever dodged a bullet or lived in the desert or walked into a fire or handled a crime scene or whatever, those people deserve everything that we can give them because they put their lives at risk for us. And so them and their families, those are the people that we love to support because look at what they're doing for us. It's the least that we could do.
Yeah. So before we started recording, you were telling me about an example of one. Why don't you share the the story with our audience?
Well, sometimes as we talked before, I think our whole college degree system needs to be a little bit revamped. I think it needs to be a lot more focused on what jobs are needed. And in that mindset, I actually discovered a company called Next Generation Training. And one of the things that they do is they teach people how to do cybersecurity and all different kinds of things, computer security wise. And this company teaches you only what you need to know to get the job. So it's not a 4-year degree, it's a 6-month degree. And you get it done quickly, but they also help place you in one of the 800,000 open cybersecurity jobs that are in and around the world. So I have a gentleman that we already put through it. The entire fee for this is $12,000. We paid the fee for him as one of our donations, one of our scholarships. And he's just graduating now, and he's going to go right into a job that pays him $90,000. So I look at 12 to get 90. I'll take that all day over 150 to get 70, which is some of our traditional pathways. So yeah, it's a neat thing. There's a lot of these mini colleges that are opening up, and I think that's a good thing for the system overall.
Yeah, there are, and there are. I know, as I said, I know of one specifically that they are doing exactly that for their industry with a variety of courses with uh, professionals, not professors.
Well, it's funny because I heard the joke the other day where the gentleman walks into an interview and the interviewee says, "Hey, now all that stuff you learned in college, you're not going to need any of that because we're going to teach you what you need to know right here." And the interviewee said, "Well, that's good because I didn't go to college." So the interviewer says, "Well, I'm sorry you're not qualified for this job." I mean, it's that insanity, right? That
Yeah.
that that drives some of these mini colleges. And again, I think that's a wonderful thing.
Okay. Ken, any final thoughts on business and tips? Anything else you'd like to get out? It's been a fascinating discussion, by the way.
Well, I just think that people need to understand that it's okay as a business owner And it's probably better for you to let go of your company rather than hang on to it too tight. You can be your own self limiter if you're not careful. Looking around and finding the gems that are within your company that you may not even know exist because you don't ask the questions, you're going to find there's some people out there that can do some really amazing, talented things, maybe even better than you could do them yourself. And if you just enlist their help, create an entrepreneurship type atmosphere, then get out of the way because your company is going to go a lot further than you can drive it yourself. That's for sure.
Oh, those are wonderful words of wisdom. Our guest today is Ken Rusk. You can reach him at kenrusk, rusk.com. You can get his book, Blue Collar Cash, on his website or at Amazon or any other place where you buy books. And you can get his course, The Path to a Successful Life, on his website. Ken, I love what you're doing. I'm a big believer in giving back. Often we who give back benefit more than those who receive it. And I applaud you for what you're doing with the Comfort, Peace, Freedom Foundation. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks, John.